How you doing?
Good.
Where the hell are we right now?
We're in Auckland, New Zealand.
Why are we in Auckland?
We just finished wrapping Emily's story. Emily is someone I found through a friend. December of last year, they launched a one-on-one mentorship. And I literally, I think, replied to the email within 2 minutes of getting it and signed up for a phone call. Before the phone call was over, I was like, I'm in, save me a spot, send me an invoice, whatever I need to do. Like, this is the right next step for me. So since January of this year, I've been working alongside the Muse team, who have been pushing and giving feedback on every part of my business, from the financials to the storytelling to the production value to our overall process and efficiencies, like all of it. They have just been pushing my thinking and what we can do and how we can do it. So when they launched a Storyfinding challenge in January, encouraging people to go out and find compelling stories in one of 4 cities that they were going to be traveling to, I was like, there's no way I'm going to win this, but it's going to be really good practice. And it is 8:45 on Saturday night, February 17th. And I just got a text message that we are the final story picked and we'll be going to New Zealand in March.
So we are in New Zealand because Janice won the Ultimate Storyfinding Challenge. We had submissions from all over the world, and it's a really special opportunity because Janice is also in our mentorship program, which gives us a chance to, a lot of you have been asking about, talking to somebody who's in the program, getting a much better sense of what it's actually like, what kind of experience you might have had. There's something special about also being able to, talk about these things theoretically for months, but like now actually experience them.
Yes.
Okay, so we are here at Emily's apartment. I'm going to give you a quick walkthrough of what that looks like and our approach. We got to move pretty quickly because we got 2 interviews to do here in the next hour and a half. But this is her apartment. Now, as you can see, it's pretty small. So we've got Evan back here prepping. Janice is with both Ruby and Emily to kind of get them out of the space so that they don't see where we're sitting up. Now, since we're interviewing both Mum and Emily, we want to get them in separate spots, which is hard because this is it. This is the whole place, right? So we need 2 different locations in this room. So prime location is actually just going to be here. And we're going to use a large format sensor, Sony FX3, stretch out the room as much as we can, kind of come back as much here as we can to create some depth, and just shoot into this. We'll pull out the couch, use natural light, turn off the lights. There we go. So that'll be Emily's. And then for Ruby's, we're going to come over here. And so you can see I've just started kind of doing the work. And then what I'm going to try and do is just bounce this light off the wall since the wall's white and use that as my key, because I don't really want to try and get a stand on here like that close. And then her mom's just going to sit here. You'll notice that nice clean composition, right? So that'll be our background. We'll get a second light on the background, but that's really it. What's kind of been your biggest insight or, takeaway in just being on set with our team and kind of seeing this firsthand and,
There's so many. I feel like my background's in education and I think about it a lot. Like anytime you're learning something new, it's like mindset, knowledge, skills. So when I was teaching teachers, it was like if you don't have the right mindset, you'll never learn the right things and then you'll never be able to practice and get the right skills. So through the mentorship, it all started with mindset. I feel like for a lot of it, my mindset was in the right place. I've been doing this for like 12 years, but a lot of gaps in knowledge and skills. And have been learning the knowledge over the last 2 months, taking the courses, talking to mentors, all of that. But the skills is hard because I go to do it, but you're not right there. So I might be practicing it the wrong way, or I might not know exactly what it's supposed to look like in execution. But then coming here and watching you and the team for 2 days, I felt like not only did it fill in gaps on knowledge, but also like being able to step into the interview, even for a little bit, was like giving me that practice to actually like get the reps in of what does this feel like. And that I feel like was just invaluable. Watching and then practicing both of those. It was just...
In some ways, Emily quite enjoyed that. She was this gorgeous little fluffy, blonde, curly-haired girl, blue eyes, and everybody was like, oh, Emily, you were a princess. She was a bit of a princess.
There's a word that came up a lot and it gets thrown around a lot, intention.
Yeah.
What can you say about, and something we preach is just that level of being so intentional that that you can be way more profitable. And actually I shared something the other day and people didn't understand until I made the connection of like, look, if I can do this in 20% of the time, and then I'm filming it in 1 day instead of 4, and then editing it in 2 days instead of 5, like that's actually profitability.
Yes.
What level of intention might you have expected coming in, and like what did you experience in terms of how prepared, and then how that felt, like just being on set and everything else? Janice, what the heck are you doing? Janice, what are you doing?
Making calls to rehab centers.
Really? There we go. Okay, what just happened?
So, we got to the University of Auckland campus, and which we've had permission to film, and in the last 24 hours they have had to, or they've tried to not revoke permissions, but be like, oh, but that building, or what about this building, and it's like, nope, you gave us permission, so we're going in. And we were done in 15 minutes, and it was great. And even Emily's own mother, Ruby, was like in on the lighting. Like, it was just a blast.
Evan had to go to the bathroom, so I was like, hey, you want to be my lighting assistant? And she was super happy and like was kind of looking to get involved. So
I expected intentionality because we've been working on the story leading up to this. So like had seen the story take shape, and I saw that going into even just getting on the plane here, I knew exactly a lot of what the story was going to look like. But having prepped shoots for 12 years and knowing how I do it and then seeing how you did it is so different. I would very much fill the day. I charged my time by like a full day shoot, right? So then you want to give the client that value of shooting for the full 8 hours. So if I felt like, oh, here are the things we need and there's some extra time, it'd be like, what other, visuals can we get just in case?
Yeah.
Did a lot of that. And with then, number one, editing would take longer because I had so many visuals. I had to like go through all that footage to find it. But also just on set, like I was exhausted by the end of days. You're like lugging gear around for 8 hours, different location changes, all of that. And so coming into this, I was like, I'm flying to New Zealand. I'm going straight to the shoot.
Yep,
and then we have 2 full days of shooting. I'm going to be exhausted, but it's going to be worth it, but it's going to be exhausting. And to be on the other side of it and feel like totally worth it, I was right, not exhausted at all. Like it was, the time was just very...
So the 12, 14-hour days were okay, even with the jet lag?
I mean, we shot the first day, how long did we shoot for? Like 3 hours?
Yeah.
Maybe, most.
Yeah.
The second day, 3 to 4 hours. But then looking at the footage last night, just a glimpse of it and seeing what we got and knowing what we got relative to the story that we're building, it's like we're not short on anything. We got what we needed.
Okay, I'm going to really quickly walk you through the next setup, then we're going to get started. Here we are. So this is where we did the last interview, right? In the kitchen, into this wall. So now what we've done is transform the living room. So now I'm set up over here, and this is what the living room looks like. Hopefully we got a wide of it before so you can see, but there used to be a TV cabinet here. We've got to just stretch out the room as much as we possibly can. And then we moved these plants back here, really to hide this. And that gives us, and then that's actually a bed sheet because we didn't have diffusion. So we've got a bed sheet here to soften that light, and then a key to bring it in. And then that's overall the look. You'll see what it looks like on the camera, but again, turning off the lights, using what's there, adding a little bit. That's all it takes.
We took meth all day, every day. And it stopped working how it used to work by smoking it. And so I was introduced to all these different forms of using. And so sometimes we would be drinking it, snorting it.
Even for the folks who are in it, taking less of their time, wasting less of their time. All of that just was good to see that's possible.
I have a couple more questions about that because it does tie into the work that we're doing together. But before that, who the hell are you? For those who don't know you, what's your company? How long have you been doing this? What kind of work do you do?
Yeah, I'm Janice. I run Big Dog Little Bed Productions in Durham, North Carolina. I've been doing it for 12 years. Like a lot of folks, I started in weddings and grew into commercial work, I would say 4 or 5 years in. So I've been doing that for the last 8 years. That's the majority of our work now. Brand films, marketing films, social media, and course films are primary work.
So I have to ask you the question that you hate, which for most of you might be like talking about money, but no, for her it's why. Why do I do what I do? So give us a sense of what this is about for you, or just what you enjoy.
Yeah.
If you want to go there.
It has changed over time. I started as a teacher and was making films for my history students. I would like travel to...
Were those the lip-syncing ones?
No, those are different ones that I made recently. But I would like travel to like battlefields and dress up in, you know, old dresses and film with like a point and shoot camera. And then I had to teach myself to edit so I could turn it into something I could use in my classroom. And that's where it started. But then I really fell in love through weddings with the story piece of it. And weddings are a really good place to do that because I feel like you are telling the story of individuals, of families, and a couple. And that became my passion when I started filmmaking, was uncovering not pretty shots of shoes and dresses, but like who are the humans here and how do we create something that will matter 20 years from now? And that transitioned into the commercial work we were doing with the same idea of how do we tell the stories in the heart of businesses. That said, I've learned a ton in the last couple years since honestly like discovering the work that you were doing that pushed my story even more and how we can, I think at the beginning story, I was using it in a buzzwordy way of like there's a little bit of emotion there, and learning now really how to go into storytelling.
So you've grown quite a bit.
Yeah.
So because we have people coming in from all over the place. I mean, we have some members who they've got a full-time gig in a different industry and they're looking to become full-time. We have some people who are, you know, looking to start, you know, and they want to do that. And then we have other people who are, you know, have quite successful businesses, but they're looking to optimize, do more work they like, and create more profit at the same time. Mm-hmm. What kind of level of gross revenue or, you know, size can we kind of, so we understand what you have been doing coming into the mentorship program? Yeah,
in terms of revenue, we've grown from like that first year was maybe like $5,000, and that was probably doing like way too many weddings for that amount. To now this year we're looking at like
hold on, way too many for $5,000?
Yes,
it wasn't,
Patrick. Yes, yes.
Just wanted to clarify.
I've learned a lot since then. So now we're closer to $400,000 a year.
So that's a sizable amount of revenue that a lot of people would be very excited about.
Yeah.
My first wedding was $250. So
okay, great.
I'm going to give you a hard time, but like I started there too.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're doing well, you know, like objectively in terms of if you look at the independent filmmakers in not just our community, in the world, like that is doing quite well. Yet when this opportunity came up, you were incredibly enthusiastic. Like you, and to the point of, you know, those of you who've had a call with Evan, you know that like we do an assessment, we like a personal mastery, business mastery, story mastery, we kind of give you a rating, we find blind spots, we, you know, give you a very clear sense of it, here's what we want to work on with you, but, you know, you weren't really like, I don't really need that. Like, well,
no, like I got the email I've been getting your emails for years. I've done most of the courses, and I got the email in my inbox. It was like 1:00 in the afternoon. I'd just come back from a meeting that morning. Thankfully, I got it within like 5 minutes because it definitely sounded like there were limited spots. I replied immediately and booked a call with Evan for like the soonest one that she had, and was just like, I'm all in. And then on the call, she told me the cost of it, and it was like, immediately I was like, how do I sign up? How do I pay? Can I pay you now? Let's get started. It was just like a no-brainer for me.
And I agree, and it should be for everybody, because I genuinely believe no matter where you're at, you know, that investment, you get such a large return in how that changes how you see yourself, what you can create in your life. Like a line I remember in a film was with Grant. Grant and I did, you know, his documentary, I'm Fine Thanks, and one of the people that they interviewed was a hospice worker, and her biggest learning was in everybody that she'd worked with. Like their biggest regret and how they felt was like they all felt like they were dying in the middle of their life. Like everybody just felt like, I always thought I'd have more time. And I genuinely, so much of what excites me about this program is like, you're fast tracking people. Like you're letting them get quicker to the things they actually love. The clients, the freedom, the not having to be second guessed about everything. But for some reason you had that conviction right away, that like you just saw that and you got that. You're like, why would I try and take 10 years and figure this out myself if I can just have a team come? Where did where did that confidence so quickly to just like, nope, I want to do this?
Well, Patrick, I've been doing this for 12 years alone.
Yeah.
So I've been like slowly growing from $5,000 to
I have-
$4,000. Like
I have calls with people all the time, or I should say Evan has calls with people all the time. We talk to people all the time that you know, are in a similar situation, but they're still like, but it's still a significant investment. I don't know.
I
So,
can't
like,
understand that.
why-
Because for me, it was like I've taught myself everything that I know. YouTube, your courses. It was just like finding resources, but you're still alone when you're doing that.
Yeah.
There's still not a human looking at your business and helping you figure out.
Sure, but if the
how you could
mentorship
grow.
program was for $10,000, we'll just hang out for a while. You may have thought about it a little bit longer and passed. So it's not just I'm not alone.
Yeah.
There's something more to it, right? About like what outcomes did you feel? What outcomes did you want and feel so confident in that it was just like, yes, let's go.
What outcomes did I want?
Like what, financial? Is it personal? Like, because I mean, we use the model of personal mastery, business
Yeah.
mastery, and story mastery. When you looked at those, like what was your, you know, kind of the driving factor around that confidence? I know there's the desire of I don't want to have to do this alone, and
Yeah.
I'd love to work with people
Yeah.
who have done it at a different level and to be able to gain their insights. But then I think there's a little bit more to it there too in terms of what you're hoping to do with Big Dog Little Bit.
Yeah, I think story and business were the top two. I love the creativity of filmmaking, but I also love the creativity of growing a business and figuring out how to do that differently. But I also have been calling our work story driven for a long time and have felt like we weren't fully there in terms of like creating exceptional stories and not just good stories. So that was a big part of it, of knowing that you all do that better than anyone that I've seen. So like,
It's very nice of you.
so who better to like help push our story further? But also on the business side, I had grown to a team of multiple full-time filmmakers, and that was hard for me. That was a growth phase that I needed help with and figuring out what is my role in this. And so in that moment, feeling that tension of like, where do we go from here? What does that look like? It just felt like I needed help with that.
Yeah. So there are a lot of intangibles, and you know, I would argue that like a lot of people coming into this need personal mastery, right? What we talk about is clarity and confidence and your core narrative, and like that is to me the ultimate value. And there's even a discussion on Story First the other day where people were talking about like, how do you go from charging this much to this much? You know, and my answer to them was like, a big part of it is like, you need to know that you belong. Like you have to have that actual confidence. Like the biggest difference in me asking for a $500,000 deal is like, I know that I'm worth it and I know that we can deliver, which is hard to like get there and to develop that. And it's squishy and kind of amorphous in terms of like, how do I actually develop that? What can you say about, like, we're not even done. We're under 90 days in, you know, how can we share with people what kind of return you've already gotten, right? Because I don't want to sit here today and say, look, we're talking to Janice and she's had a wonderful time in the mentorship program and she's got some friends and we got to go to New Zealand and we did, you know, like, well, that's wonderful. And I absolutely believe that the personal mastery is worth it. I think that what a lot of people also want is the story and the business mastery. So on the business side, what kind of returns have you seen?
Yeah. I think the best example of this is early on in the mentorship. I told you I was having a discovery meeting with a school leader of a school that I had worked with in the past, but Patrick did not know that I'd worked with them. And he said,
This is the lip syncing video?
Yes.
Do I have permission to roll a second of the lip syncing?
Sure. And Patrick asked who I was meeting with so he could offer some help to like push me in that meeting. And I sent him the name of the principal and did not tell him that I had worked for him in the past. And he wrote back an email that I got at like 10 o'clock at night. And he said, I just want to make you aware there's a red flag here. I found the video that they've made in the past. It's really disturbing, I think was the word he used. He described the video as disturbing. And I sat in my office at home and I just laughed out loud. And I clicked on the link and I was like, I'm pretty sure I know where this link is going. Sure enough, it went to a video that I had made for them several years ago for $1,000. And I had to laugh because like, but through the mentorship,
No, let me just build. So the reason it was so disturbing was because it misset expectations. And so what I was trying to share was, if they think that this is what you make, you're going to end up in a terrible place because they're not going to want what you want because they clearly don't want story. And I went on this big whole tirade on like why this is not, which makes it compounds the pain.
Of course they thought that's what I could make because I hadn't made that for them.
Yeah.
It was a one-shot iPhone video on a stabilizer where the entire staff of teachers are lip syncing. But the point is, my background's in education. I care deeply about education.
Yeah.
That was all they had hired me to do in the past. They wanted this fun back-to-school video. And through the mentorship, I gained the confidence of digging into story, like just doing the story discovery for free.
Yeah.
I just went in and said, like, I want to see if there are good stories here. And uncovered 4 really good stories that I thought could be told that could help brand awareness for them. So it made sense for them, but it also was the kind of work I wanted to do. Then you also have helped me with my process. So I had a whole new pitch than I had done before, which was a pretty bad proposal.
Yeah.
You've seen
Which actually I think is something that had come up in your audit session. So like it's part of going through, we set a vision, then we do an audit. Where do you want to go? Where are you? Part of that was like, your brand's great. We could work on our brand storytelling, but also like the proposals are busy and we're not, like our perceived value is really low.
Yes.
And so you really
that was one of the first things I did
Yep.
was like dig into my process and figure out where are the places where I'm not showing them what I could do for them and what the real value is here.
Yep.
Where am I just showing them dollars and cents and time? Here's how long I'll work for you. Here's how much you pay for it. And I sent it off pitching, and it was 5 times the amount of the package we had done one story-driven one, which was $7,000, and this one came to be $35,000. So I think there's several things there. First of all, I felt confident enough to send that proposal. I feel like if you had asked me 3 months ago, I would have felt so intimidated, like, oh, they don't have the money, they're a school, like they've only spent this much before. But I was like, no, I know the value of this and what it can do for you. And so I pitched it and I sent it to them. And almost, I would say within 24 hours, I got a quick one line, yes, we're in, how do we get started?
So there was not this big negotiation process. There was not the, so I do have to at this point ask you, like, have you been paid to be here today?
No.
But there is that kind of sense because like a lot of people are like, what do you mean you charge 5 times as much? You made the proposal 80% simpler. And then all they said was yes. And like, this is what I try and share with people is like, it's actually easier to sell at $250,000 or $500,000 to the right clients in the right way because they get your value and they're not looking to go, well, can we get 10% off? Or what about, is this included? It's like, no, we get the bigger picture and we want your expertise. And it seems like that's exactly what you're experiencing there.
And I think a big takeaway was like, yes, there are right clients and wrong clients and figuring out that fit is real. But this is a client I had before with a wrong project.
Yep.
And I realized after sending this that the problem probably wasn't with them. The problem was with me and how I viewed what I could do for them and how I presented that to them of what I could do, the opportunity versus just the cost or the investment on their end.
So you were able to charge 5 times on that, which is now more than made up for several times your investment into the program.
5 times, yeah.
But, okay, so we have some great business wins, and that's from a high level, right? Because we talk about profit and price and perceived value, and we made big moves on perceived value with your documents. You clearly are making moves on price, and you've done quite a bit of work on profit too to really understand and I give you a hard time all the time about efficiency and like how do we just make sure that you're making more on that. What can you say on the personal mastery side in terms of any changes in confidence or clarity or that side?
I think it's interesting because when I came in, I was like, we went over that in my first meeting, the 3 areas, and like, which one do you think you need the most help on? And personal mastery was not one, because I've been running the business for 12 years. I usually feel pretty confident going into a discovery meeting.
You run your own podcast, you've got another business, like you are highly capable, highly ambitious, like, you know what I mean, which would map to a high level of personal mastery. So,
but I felt like I still was viewing myself within a certain market, a certain price point. And I didn't necessarily, when you were talking about pitching 5 times the amount with way less details in the proposal, I'm like, well, they're never going to say yes to that. They need all those details. And I do feel like my confidence has grown of envisioning myself, what is the next place I want to be? What is the place after that? And I don't think I ever would have thought 2 or 3 steps
clarity
ahead.
and confidence.
Yeah.
Like clarity, and now you're seeing it. Confidence that you can do it, and then core narrative, and that the story you're telling yourself about what's even possible for you is shifting. Right? So then the last one would be story mastery, and I mean you've got the I was going to almost say lucky, but that would make Storyfinding lucky, and it's not. You worked for this to get here, to get this opportunity, but you had the opportunity to be here with us on set.
And for example, when you were filming on the first day, we were in this room with with 35 people talking, And if I had shot that without knowing what you all would do, if I had just been sent in there to shoot that, I would have put my camera on a tripod with a zoom lens because I wouldn't want to get in anyone's space. I would want them to feel like they, weren't being watched. I was a fly on the wall. That would have been my previous way of doing it. And then I watched you do that. And you had a totally different lens choice. You were right in the center of the circle. Maybe not the center, because you were right in front of whoever was speaking or getting reactions, and you were like in the moment.
But wasn't everybody freaking out and reacting, and wasn't that ruining the emotion for everybody? I mean, that's what a lot of people are thinking when they hear that.
That's what I would have thought it would do. And at first I was like, what is happening? He's like, and they were talking about like really vulnerable life stories. And my instinct would not have been to get in that space. And then last night I saw a glimpse of the footage, and it's just so different than anything I've ever created.
So I didn't belong, I wasn't accepted, I was different, always looked different, talked different. By the time I was 7, I had 5 different accents I could put on just like that. Why? So I could get accepted by people. So when I was 13, when we came back to New Zealand, all I wanted to do was be accepted, be loved for who I am, not for what I look like.
And I think about what my film would have looked like if I'd gone into that room and done it the way that I've always done it, and what it could look like the next time I do something like that, having seen the confidence and the mindset and the choices you were making and why. And I asked you immediately afterwards why you used that lens, and you explained that to me, but then I saw it. And if I had directed it instead of watched you, like I don't know that I ever would have seen that.
And in that example, though, story mastery is expertise and experience and expectations, right? And so a big part of what we're talking about here is kind of expectations and experience. And so there's also just going into that circle and just taking it upon myself to announce to the room, like, and I had even asked Emily, our character, in advance, like, hey, do you want me to? She's like, no, it's okay, we're fine. But like, I knew I needed to. So it's a lens choice, and it's an intentionality, and there's the technical side of the lighting, but then there's also just the simple experience, like creating the experience that allows for that to then happen in an authentic way.
And you've done it enough that you've seen the result to know that this is the right way to do it. And seeing that result last night was what I need to have the confidence to walk in next time and do that, even if there is a slight moment of discomfort among anyone there, believing that I am doing what's best for the story and ultimately for the client who's paying for that. Seeing that is like, it was irreplaceable for me to see that, and then that gives me the confidence to do that.
Yeah. So then the only other story thing to get your take on is then like the interview approach. And the interview approach as it relates to like the storyboards. Because, what when you saw the storyboards, what was your take on that? And not from a creative, like, did they hit the plot points or whatever else, but back to that idea of like intention. What kind of level of intention did you see on the storyboards? And then how did that intention translate into the interviews?
You've got to get with people who are like you, people who know you, who understand you, who can call the games you're playing and keep you honest.
Suffering can be turned into beauty a lot. I wouldn't be the person I am today given what I've gone through.
All right, so what we just did is basically a reading of our storyboards. And what you can see here a little bit is the quotes. So this is all conversations that Janice and Evan have had with Ruby and her mom, and some of it's also pulled from articles I found online, such as this Daily Mail article that is her story. And then it's also pulling all the discovery calls and using that to create actual, like, line-by-line storyboards so that we can see it. And then hopefully you can kind of get a sense as we read it, like we can feel the story, react to it, and now we're going to discuss how we can make it better.
It was like twice as intentional as what I am typically doing for clients that are paying me to be there. And I've shot so many interviews over the last 12 years, and they've gotten better over time in terms of like my list of questions is like, but I will still block off an hour of time and just like fill that hour. And the questions are like getting at general ideas, but not getting at like quotes. And because we had done discovery calls, we had literal quotes from the main character and then her mom, one of the supporting characters, to know exactly what we wanted to get out of them. So while you were interviewing, Evan was sitting at a laptop that connected to the iPad that was in front of you and was looking at, here are the parts of the story and the exact quotes or areas we need them to hit on. at first it looked like areas, like we want to get them to talk about this. But then Evan would literally be like, okay, she talked about most of this, but this, like she didn't mention that she left the Philippines when she was 12. So she would highlight that, make it big so that on your iPad it could be like, hey, make sure you get this. And you wouldn't be like, can you say what age you left? You would use that to then just organically work it in a conversation and be like, I don't even remember how you did it, but getting that specific. And then Evan would just cross it off and be like, okay, got it, moving on to the next one.
What was it like to kind of see Evan hit something, make it larger, and then to just hear it come out of the talent's mouth a minute later with so much emotion? Like it's like
Right.
almost like Evan's typing into the character's head.
Right.
What did that feel like
I
for
mean,
you? Gotta roll. Okay, we just finished. We're driving away. I'm just realizing. Started asking Janice questions and I wasn't rolling. My fault. Okay.
If Emily got close to getting exactly what we wanted, she would highlight the piece that she didn't hit, and then you would like push until we got that piece, and then you could see when she got it, sometimes word for word, Evan would like make it smaller. And then move on to the next one. It was just like so strategic.
When Janice was sitting next to me during that process in Emily's interview and actually feeling her mind get blown via her energy as I'm like resizing, recoloring, like all of the different, tactics that we have to be strategic in these conversational interviews, that was pretty...
You could see it exploding.
That might be my favorite part, other than everything about Emily and Ruby.
Evan, you got anything for us?
Just to say that was the second time I've experienced that system at work, and it was even more impressive than the first time. I was sitting monitoring the camera, and so I was kind of a bit more removed from the other folks doing that, but you could feel it happening in the room because it was just so smooth.
It was mind-blowing. But it also, I couldn't stop thinking about like, how do I do this as quickly as possible? Like, how do I implement this in my business as soon as I get home? What do I need to do to make this happen? Because it suddenly made what I had been doing seem, it was fine, it was mediocre, it was average, it was good. But to compare that to what's possible with not that much more work, it's not harder or more time consuming, it takes less time in a lot of cases.
It's actually less work.
Yeah, it's just so much more intentional.
I think I probably put less time, if we were just going to call time work, right? Like I probably put less time than you would have generally prepared. But again, it was that Jenga pulling out so much, like this is all we need. We're going to focus on this and like just boom, in a very strong experiential way to like value her. But like we're not just going to try and cover everything or and go through everything.
Which is respectful. We weren't wasting her time. Also, like reliving your past and hard parts of it is really emotionally hard and tiring and exhausting. So it felt really respectful for me to be like, we are intentional. We know what we need to tell this story well. We're not going to make you sit in that any longer than you need to. We're not going to waste any of your time or our time. And we're actually going to have a better film because of it.
So if somebody, we're starting to now get a lot of people outside of our community apply to the mentorship program, meaning they don't really know Evan and I. Like we haven't worked together, that kind of thing. Whereas you have known us for some time. We've done different training together. Well, this is our first time meeting. There's other things you've kind of done.
Yeah.
What would you want to share with somebody who might not know who we are or what we've done and like who they're learning from?
I mean, one of the things I love about what you've created for me as a filmmaker is that I didn't jump straight into a $10,000 private mentorship, right? Like the very first course you put out, I probably took that. And I think you even described it as like, there were holes, it was incomplete. This is literally like, I don't know, 7 to 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But that's where I started. And so I feel like you've created so many ways to dip your toes in if you need to figure out what you can get from it. And I fully have found and believe that even those little ones, you'll get such a big return on it that then you'll end up, buying a whole course. And then once you take that course, you'll see the impact it has on your business. And then that's why when that email came to my inbox, it was like, of course this makes sense. I've been doing this for years and I've seen the growth of my business because of it. This is just the logical next step.
But I guess the thing that I appreciate that, thank you. But the thing I'm a little bit more curious about is there can be this fear, like when you see things online, it's like, okay, but like, are they just selling me shit that they can't do? Like, and so coming here, since you have the unique, perspective of coming here and seeing us on set, like, what would you say to somebody who's like, okay, well, they can teach this story stuff and they can talk about charging a couple $100,000 for a project and whatever else, like, do you actually feel like we actually can walk the walk?
I mean, you've won 5 Emmys. Like, you've produced full-length documentary. I mean, to me, it just, like, is there really a question there? It seems obvious from the minute I discovered you and I watched one of your films. It was probably that. I don't even care necessarily about the Emmys, though that's great.
They're great, glorified paperweights.
Yeah, but I think for me, it was like, just watch one of your film. Watch a 3-minute film that you've made. Done, I'm sold. I want to make films like that. I make 3-minute films. They don't look anything like that yet. Like, I want to make that film.
Yeah.
To me, it's that simple. You do it all the time. You can see it. Yeah.
So, anything else you want to say to somebody who's on the fence, who's considering this, who's, you know what I mean, they're not sure. And I think part of the challenge is, like, shit's tough right now. Like, our industry, you know, an article came out recently calling it the Great Contraction, right? Like, you know, a lot of ad agencies are laying people off. A lot of retainer work's going away at the very large level, the 7-8 figure kind of level. Hollywood shrinking, they're spending less, and so, like, things are tight, and so that does make it a little bit harder to go, well, hold on, you know, do I want to invest in? So, any kind of final thoughts to somebody who's like, okay, I hear what you're saying, and, like, I want that, but, like, I don't have a ton of resources right now, and I don't have a ton of work.
I hear that. I'm, like, the most frugal business owner ever. You know this. Like,
getting her to spend her call credits, and it's just like she's going to go to her grave with her call credits.
No, I'm going to spend them as soon as I get back. But it has been hard for me because that's how I operate my business. I'm always keeping an eye on our runway and, like, how much can we spend? And this one, I didn't think twice about it. And I feel like because of what you just said, we do see that shrinking. And you sent out an email the other day, and I'm going to put this on my wall as soon as I get back to the studio. But you said averages taken. The competition at the top is way thinner. And to me, that's it right there. I don't want to be average, but also it's taken. Like, the competition is so much harder there. You will probably lose out. It would be harder to rise to the top. But if you are pushing yourself in terms of quality in all of those ways, business, story, personal mastery, then that's the kind of business I want to run.
And that's what we want to help people get there with.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I know you guys have to get to Hobbitville,
Hobbiton.
Sure. Okay. Yes, you have a big adventure. I totally botched the name, which Evan and Sean are very excited about this. I don't think we're the Lord of the Rings fans.
No.
But thank you so much for making time.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's how we're filming the photos. So we got the natural sunlight, and then we've got Evan making a fake cookie here. And so go ahead and show them. Go ahead and give us the little. So see, look at that wind effect that we get, and it looks so natural, doesn't it? He's a natural wind maker. And Ruby's just loving it. Loving it. She's getting all the BTS. Hopefully she'll share the footage with us.
A video.
She is.
Oh.
And we are too. So what's it been like working with these Muse folks?
It's been amazing.
Oh, really? You like them?
Yeah, they're chopping up my house plants and everything.
That didn't happen.
They moved my couch and I could sweep underneath it.